met at your deposition. I just have a few questions about the letter that you just spoke about on direct, okay?
Yes.
All right. When you were handed the letter by Mr. Alvarez, you told him that you recognized it, right?
Yes.
But isn't it true, ma'am, that you really only recognize the handwriting as yours? You don't actually recognize the document.
No.
Well, you gave a deposition in this case, right?
Yes.
All right, and that you gave it over 2 different time periods, right?
Yes.
You gave one on May 1st, 2012.
Yes.
And then you gave one more recently in March, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to hand you your deposition, all right?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Ms. Schneider. Thank you.
Ms. Kennedy, if you'd go to page 136. First step.
Okay.
I think I've already turned it
Yes.
for you. And Ms. Kennedy, you were under oath at your deposition, right?
Yes.
You also had the opportunity to review the deposition and make any changes you believed were necessary, right?
Yes.
In fact, your lawyer at the time, at the end of the deposition in 2012, said that you were going to read and sign, which meant you were going to review it for accuracy, right?
Yes.
And you never made any changes to your deposition, correct?
Yes.
I asked you when you were deposed just last month at your deposition if you had any changes to make to your 2012 deposition, right?
Yes.
And you told me one change you had to make, right?
Yes.
And that was about your father. You remember that your father played on the Michigan State hockey team, right?
Yes.
And that was the only change you made to your first deposition, correct?
I think I also said that my grandma Lou was there and grandpa Andy.
Okay. But you made no other changes to your deposition from 2012 at any time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if you turn to page 136, lines 5 through 9 for the moment, I'm going to read you. You gave the following. You were asked the following questions, and you gave the following answers at your deposition. Question: I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit E, and I'll represent to you that is this letter. Do you recognize this document? Answer: I wrote it. Apparently, I don't recognize it. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Do you remember approximately when you wrote this document?
I know it was when my father was sick, but I can't tell you the exact date.
Well, if you look at lines 12 through 14, you were asked the following question and gave the following answer. Do you remember approximately the time you wrote it? Answer: no, I don't even remember this. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
How did you refresh your memory about this document?
Well, after seeing the document and reading it, these are obviously very painful things that I have shut away for a long time, and I saw it and I recognized as my handwriting, and I remembered writing it.
And you did not recognize it at the deposition, correct?
Correct.
When did you come to recognize this document and remember when you wrote it?
I don't know.
You cannot say when you actually remembered writing this document.
Sistine.
No, I don't know.
Oh, no, you don't need to answer the question.
Sorry.
No,
I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Sure. Has it been since your deposition in 2016, just a month ago, that you remembered it?
I don't know.
Okay. So you have no idea if it was 5 years ago that you first remembered this, or yesterday that you first remembered this?
Objection, argumentative judge.
Sistine.
Okay. You can't give us any time between when you were first asked if you recognized it and today where you actually remembered writing this letter.
Objection, asked and answered, and argumentative.
Sistine. All right, anything else on board, Dr.?
Yes, Your Honor. Do you remember actually giving this letter to your father?
Yes.
When did you give this letter to your father?
When he was sick.
And when was that? When in particular?
I don't know.
Do you remember how soon before his death you gave it to him?
I don't remember.
Do you know where you gave it to him?
I don't remember.
Do you know where you wrote it?
I don't remember.
Did you read it to him?
No.
Did you watch him read it?
I don't remember.
Where did your father keep this letter after you gave it to him?
I don't know.
Have you seen the letter since you gave it to your father?
Objection, Judge. This has gone far beyond what we need.
Do you need to ask more questions?
Yes, Your Honor. She hasn't established the foundation for this letter.
She said she remembered it at this time. Doesn't that go to weight and not admissibility?
Your Honor, there's no way I can actually cross-examine her on the stand about this. And this is a very sensitive topic. I mean, the jury would obviously have, feel negatively towards me if I'm cross-examining her on a letter she wrote to her dying father. I don't think all she said is that she recognizes it. We couldn't depose her on it, and Mr. Alvarez is cutting me off on my questions. I'm not able to fully question.
That's fine. You can fully question, but it's getting late, so I'm happy to.
I don't think she can fully question. Once the issue is, does she remember writing this letter? Is this the letter? That's the foundational issue that I've established. Once we've established, that's it. She wants to cross her. She can cross her all she wants.
I think I just have a couple more questions.
Just a couple more questions. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll have a couple more questions. All right. I believe you said that you recognize this document as something that you wrote. But do you have any recollection, ma'am, of actually writing this letter?
Objection. Asked and answered.
I don't think this exact question has been asked.
She can answer it one more time, and that's it. Go ahead, Ms.
Yes, I wrote this letter. The writing is mine. I wrote this letter.
Do you actually? That's not exactly the question I asked. Do you actually remember writing this letter?
Yes, I wrote this letter when he was sick.
Where were you when you wrote this letter?
I don't remember.
Okay,
Sistine.
I haven't asked that.
Okay, let's go ahead and answer. We're getting to the end. Go ahead, Mrs. Campbell.
I don't remember.
Was it at your house?
Objection. If you can't remember, this is harassment, Judge.
It's okay. Any other questions, Michelle?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes. Where I'd like her to answer that one.
Okay, go ahead and answer.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Why did you write this letter?
Now, how does that go to the foundational issue?
She can't even say why. That's what she's going to. Your Honor, I would like to have a legal argument outside of the presence of the witness, but.
Okay. All right, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Well, I guess let's approach.
Okay. But I sustain the objection.
That's what I'm saying. I'd like to approach it and argue
But
my point in front of Your Honor.
all right, coming up.
It's getting late.
Let's have Ms. Schneider finish up, and then we'll continue. So, thank you guys so much.
All right. Mrs. Kennedy, please tell me everything you remember about this letter and writing this letter and giving it to your father.
Well, as I stated, I didn't know. When he was sick, I wrote this letter because I was hoping it would serve as a way of inspiring him, as an inspiration. I wanted him to try to fight the cancer.
Is that your full testimony about writing this letter, why you wrote this letter?
Objection compound.
Sustain.
Can you think of any other reasons that you wrote this letter?
I wanted him to fight. I wanted him to live.
Did you ever talk to your father about the letter that you wrote?
I don't remember.
You don't remember having a conversation with your father about this letter?
Sustain.
Did your father ever say anything to you about the letter that you gave him?
I don't remember.
Was your father already in the hospital at this point
Objection.
in time?
Asked and answered. This area's been covered.
I don't think it has, Your Honor.
Go ahead, you can answer, Mrs. Kennedy.
I don't remember.
Okay. So you don't remember anything about the circumstances of writing this letter or giving it to your father. Is that
Objection.
right?
Argumentative.
Sustain.
Do you remember anything about the circumstances of writing this letter or giving it to your father?
Objection. Asked and answered. Argumentative.
Sustain the objection.
Well, Your Honor, I'm just trying to get some clarity on.
Open-ended, tell us what you remember.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
That's what I just did.
Okay.
Tell me all the circumstances you remember of actually writing this letter, the process you went through writing this letter, where you were, and then giving it to him.
Objection. It's been covered. Asked and answered.
This is the last time. Go ahead, Mrs. Kennedy. Okay.
When my dad was sick, I was hoping that this letter would inspire him to fight because I thought that he could fight it, and I thought that we had a chance at winning. So I wrote this letter to try to help him fight and win because I told him that I loved him very much and that he's very important to us.
And that wasn't exactly the question that I was asking. I was
Objection.
more.
Strike the comment.
Sustain.
Your Honor, I
That's
mean,
okay. No, that's
if this is an update deposition, then I need to be given some leeway to actually explore the witness's testimony.
Okay,
The
I know.
problem is that there's a judge here.
I know. So I can make a ruling. So, and I sustain Mr. Alvarez's objection. So let's ask the next
Okay.
question.
Well, I would also ask Mr. Alvarez to cease the commentary, the unprofessional commentary.
Okay, that's okay, guys. Guys. It's getting late. Let's just continue. Is that okay? Let's just go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Schneider, please.
I understand now why you say you wrote the letter, and so I'm just trying to get clarity as to whether you remember
Objection.
anything.
Excuse me.
Your Honor, may he let me finish the question, please, Your Honor?
Good.
You please do not interrupt me.
Guys.
And my
please,
question.
Please. Ms. Schneider, finish the question, and then I'll hear Mr. Alvarez's objection.
All right. Nancy, can you read it back, please?
I understand now why you say you wrote the letter, and so I'm just trying to get clarity as to whether you remember anything.
About the action.
Excuse me.
Mr. Alvarez.
No. Go ahead. Good.
He-
You can state your projection, Mr.
I
Alvarez.
object.
I haven't even finished it, Your Honor. I thought you said for me to finish my question before he got to object.
Guys, please. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up and we're going to continue this in the morning, and I really don't want to do that. So,
Your Honor, during
so-
depositions, there's enormous leeway on asking questions.
Okay.
I mean, just because you're allowing us to have a bigger deposition, is my understanding, Your Honor. And so, in depositions, asked and answered, that's not an appropriate objection. In a deposition, I have the ability to ask the questions I feel like I need to ask to fully understand the opinions. If I had been told this in the deposition in March, I wouldn't be able to ask these questions without Mr. Alvarez. And so I'm not harassing. I'm just trying to understand the witness's testimony without Mr. Alvarez interrupting.
well, he's allowed to object, and I can make rulings just like I would with any deposition being used at trial purposes. So, why don't you finish the question, and then I'll hear Mr. Alvarez's objection.
Okay. All right, ma'am. I'm just trying to understand whether you have any memory at all of when you wrote this letter and when you gave it to your father.
Objection. Asked and answered, and I object to the part of I'm just trying to understand. It's an inappropriate predicate to a question.
Sustained.
Please explain when you wrote this letter and when you gave it to your father.
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled.
I know he was sick. I don't know the exact time when I gave him this letter.
Please explain if there's any way at all you can estimate over the course of your father's sickness, the year course, at all estimate when you wrote this letter and when you gave it to him.
I cannot estimate.
Please explain if you have any way at all to estimate when you first remembered this letter.
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled. You can answer, Mrs. Kennedy.
I do not have a way to estimate.
Please, did you remember, please explain if you remembered writing this letter in the last year.
shouldn't ask an answer.
The last one, go ahead, you can answer.
I did not write this letter in the last year.
No, that wasn't my question. Please explain if you, in 2012, you did not remember this letter. So please explain, and you said you couldn't remember exactly when you remembered it. So please explain to me if you remembered this letter and the circumstances of writing this letter in the last year.
I don't remember the exact time period.
And is there any way at all to estimate whether this was in the last month that you first remembered this letter?
There's no way to estimate.
Right. Have you talked with anyone other than your lawyers about this letter?
No.
That's all the questions.
Okay, all right. So I'm happy to bring the jurors back in if you want to finish your job tonight, or if you want to do whatever.
We'll do it tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's fine.